Okay, so as you can see on your screen, we're here. That's what you registered for, parenting, preteens, and teenagers. And that just reminded me that I need to record. So just give me a minute. Okay. Record. Okay.
Recording in progress.
Okay. So I'll start that all over again. Welcome. You signed up for parenting, preteens, and teenagers, and that's either because you have one, or you are a children's church teachers, teaching one, or maybe you have cousins, nephews, or nieces that are in that stage, and you just want to learn more about it. And if your children are younger, I even salute you more for being here. Yeah. Can you mute yourself, please? There is still someone that we can hear your conversation. So please mute yourself. Thank you. Okay, so for whatever reason you're here, I pray that God will give you what you're looking for and help you to go through that journey. Personally, I see parenting as a lifetime journey. It's, when people are getting married, they say, yeah. Okay, so Sister Tiwa, please mute yourself, or brother, sorry, if it's a brother or sister, please mute yourself. Thank you, ma. So parenting is a lifetime journey. We to some extent we may know when it will start, just because you're pregnant and you give birth and you know your baby's date of birth, and you can say, oh, my firstborn was born on this day. That's the beginning of that journey. But how it's going to go, God has given that opportunity to us to make it work. And how it's going to end, it will end one day when we leave, because by the grace of God, our children will not die before us. So parenting our children is for a lifetime. You're with them even when they are adults. I usually say to people that my dad, he has made it a tradition that he's the first person to call me on my birthday. Randomly will call and be asking about his granddaughters. Well, how is this one doing? How is that one doing? He will ask about me. Oh, so did you check this? Did you check that? And all that. So you parent your child till you're no longer here. It continues for ever and ever. So we have to do well on the journey. For the purpose of those that might not know me personally or not familiar with me, my name is Olawumi Oyetiga. Now, I just realized I didn't even put my name on the screen. It is well with me. I'm a woman on mission to empower parents and children. So I teach children's church too. So I do talk with children too. To discover the right strategy and the personalized plan for making the lifetime parenting journey a fulfilling one. So my specific passion is towards children in diaspora, because this is where I live. I've been living in Saskatoon, Canada since 2004. So this is where I've always lived. This is where I've always raised my children. My oldest child was 5 months when me and her came to Canada. So this is where I've practically raised them. So I'm a daughter. My parents are still alive, praise God. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, and much more. But I just love that I get to work with parents, with children, not just those parents in diaspora, even Caucasian parents. So by the side, I run a daycare, and I have a balanced mixture of kids from different backgrounds. So I have, first-time parents, Caucasian parents, and they're asking me questions, texting me at the middle of the night. Oh, they did this, that. So I love that. That is something that I'm very passionate about. By certification and profession, I'm a certified positive discipline parent educator, early childhood educator, and I'm also a registered nurse. So I look forward to working with you on this journey, maybe just today or maybe some other time along the line. And I will quickly mention here that if you need to ask me any questions, just give me a minute. Yeah, some people didn't get the email, so I'm just posting it to them as they ask. By way of what I do, I teach children's church. I also run a daycare, and I also have 3 children of my own. So my oldest child, by the grace of God, she's turning 20 this year. Our middle one is turning 18 this year, and our youngest one is turning 10. Now, she's turning 10 in March, and she's been planning for it since last year as if it's a wedding. Like, the plans just keep changing. So we're all kind of getting tired little by little of the planning. So let's jump into the what we have for today. And I'm trying to move my things. Okay, there we go. So I will start off with some statistics, with some theory, with some things that govern how we behave and how our children behave. I start with something we call nature and nurture. And I put under it that they both play a critical role in who we are and who we become. So definition for nature, it's largely our genetics. So it includes the genes you're born with, the hereditary factors that your personality is formed, all of those things that we really don't have control over. So it develops with us from childhood into our adulthood. Then the second one is nurture. Nurture now is the one we can control because nurture is your environment. It includes factors like your childhood experiences, the way you were raised, your social relationship, the culture in which you were raised. Which, if you remember, I was talking about diaspora. So most of us on this line today, it might be the situation is that we were raised in a different culture, Africa, Asia, wherever, and then we now moved to North America or maybe the UK, and you realize that you've changed your social background, your surrounding culture has changed as you moved. Then you now start having children here in a totally different culture. So that's why nurture is one that can be changed, it can be molded. And a theorist named J.B. Watson says that he believes that people can be trained to do and become anything, irrespective of their genetic background. And that's how you look at it, that recently we've been hearing of Africans doing really good somewhere, or in neuroscience, in technology, or the first doctor in this place to separate twins, and you see the person's name, the name looks like your culture, and you're like, yay, you're proud, and you're wondering, why can't they do it in the other culture and in the other place that they came from? So that shows us that nurture is the one we have control over to a great extent in how we do things. And because we're talking about teenagers and preteens, I decided to bring some nursing aspects into it about the human brain. The human brain, the picture on your screen, you will see that there's a pink part that's called the frontal lobe. And that's why, when somebody is misbehaving, sometimes in Nigeria where I come from, they'll be like, did you hit your head on the floor? Especially the front of your head, because that's where the frontal lobe is. And the frontal lobe, it's the largest part of the brain. It's involved in personality characteristics, decision making, and movement. It's responsible for things like skills, planning skills, prioritizing, controlling impulses. And for all of us on here today that you have teenagers or preteens, you're already thinking, I hope you're already thinking, okay, so that part of the brain that is responsible for this, newsflash, it's not fully developed until a child is 20 years old. So that goes to explain why teenagers do what they do. That goes to explain why you tell them to clean their room 20 times and they still haven't cleaned it. But remember, I started with nature and nurture. So nature is this. This is the way the brain is wired. The frontal lobe is not developed until they're 20, about age 20, even some researchers says between 20 and 25. It's still developing. It's the last one to develop. And it's the one we need the most. And so that's why you come into your teenager's room and you say, why is your room always dirty? Why can't you clean up your room? What if a visitor comes into your room? And to them, it's like they are living in the now. All the futuristic things you're mentioning right now, to them, it's like, okay, I'll do it later. And their later turns into another 2 days. Because they're still working on that part of their brain that is responsible for planning, for prioritizing, for making decisions. So sometimes you have to feed them the decision, and then we get into do I have to tell you everything 10 times? Well, sometimes you might have to, just because they are not equipped well enough to make those decisions. But that doesn't mean they cannot. And this is where nurture comes in. So we're talking about nature, but nurture also comes in. And that is why we are there as parents, to nurture them so that whatever is still lacking, your voice will be there to guide them. Your voice will be there to guide them. So The last part says that teenagers process information with the amygdala, and that's the emotional part of the brain. So that's why sometimes they're like, they have big emotions, and all of a sudden it's like they calm down because that part is still controlling how they're making some decisions. So I pulled this up the NIH website. There are 7 things we need to know about the brain of the teenager. And this is similar to preteens because if you look at it right now, in my own generation, in my own time, your own time, puberty did not start for most people until like age 15, 14, 16, thereabout. But now they're even starting to go through puberty from age 8, 9, 10. You see a 10-year-old sometime, you have to take a second look and ask them for their age to be sure. It's like everything is starting to develop and show, and you're like, how can this person be 10? But back in the days, 10-year-olds were some still ran around naked because there was nothing big going on there. So right now, this is what we're faced with. So number 1 talks about the brain doesn't reach its largest size until they are in their early adolescence. The second one says it continues to mature even after it is done growing. And that is one other problem that I've seen. So we're looking at the teenager we're talking to. They're taller than us. Their voice is deep. Some of the girls, their boobs is even bigger than their parents. And you're like, full figure, they look like an adult. So their body might have grown fast, but that doesn't mean the brain followed and grew at the same level. So the brain continues to grow at a steady stage that God had planned it for it to grow. It is after it is done growing, which is around age 20, 25, that they are actually able to make certain decisions without, it sounding immature. The number 3 said that teenagers' brain is ready to learn and adapt. And if you notice that they are in high school, they're doing this many classes, and then some of them get into university, and sometimes they might complain about the course load and workload and all that, but somehow they're still able to learn. And that's why that's the age that, in Canada here, they learn how to drive. They learn how to, they can start working. There's the young workers, even the young workers certificate can be done between the age of 13 and 14. So by 15, 16, yes, they can work. They can employ them with restriction on hours, but they can start learning skills. They can start learning to work because their brain catches up on things really quick. And this is where we need to be careful as parents, Christian parents especially, is at that stage, they are already forming their mindset about marriage by watching you. So they're watching their parents, they're watching how their marital relationship is, and they're forming their own mindset about what marriage is. If they don't like what daddy is doing to mommy, they're already making some decisions based on that. If they don't like what mommy is doing to daddy, they're already making some decisions on that. So we have to be very careful. They are watching us, and they're making some decisions based on what they're watching us do. The 4th one says many mental disorders may begin to appear during adolescence. So they're going through that teenager age, they're starting to make better decisions, they're maturing, they're entering into their 1920s, and they begin to feel the weight of the world, if we call it that way. And I'll take a pause here and say all of these things kind of changed along the line, because if we cast our mind back to the early 90s or the 1800s and stuff like that, people got married. People didn't even go to school up to high school. Those that went, it was after high school. People were married. So people had started having children. They already have a job. So there was no time for them to go through what our children currently are going to. So right now, when children tell you that they are bored, yes, they are bored because all of the things that kept their great-grandfather and grandfathers busy at that age is not part of the society right now. I always think back to even when I was a teenager, being bored was not something you brought up, especially during the vacations, summer break of school. My mom, God bless my mom, that is when she will buy the big bag of beans and you have to pick it. So I hope there's nobody here that has not picked beans or picked rice. There's always something to do. When you wash clothes, you scrub the floors, there's enough chores to keep you busy. But right now, what do we find? Groceries, you buy it goes in the freezer, whatever they want to eat, everything is a lot more easier than then. So boredom definitely comes in. And if they don't channel it well, then it leads into all of these things that they're talking about, mental disorder. Number 5, teens' brain may be more vulnerable to stress. So stress from studying, stress from dealing with puberty, trying to figure out life, bullying, and sometimes, as parents, if we don't have an open communication line, your child might be going through bullying at school and they can't tell you because they already know the response they will get from you, and they don't want that response because it's just making matters worse for them. So they might keep it to themselves, and then they become vulnerable to stress. The number 6 point here says that they need more sleep than adults and children, and that I know we struggle with because we're like, okay, someone's okay, thank you. Please mute yourself, please. Whoever that is, please mute yourself. Adele, okay, thank you. God bless you. So they need more sleep than adults, and that's one of the other places that I think we struggle as immigrant parents, because my father raised me, my mother raised me. Saturday morning, you have to be awake by 6 a.m. and sweep the yard and sweep the compound and do this. Well, there's no yard and no compound to sweep. But if there are chores to be done, have a conversation with them about, okay, I know you like your Saturday morning sleeping time, and I am up and I don't like to see dirty dishes. Please do it on Friday instead of Saturday. You might have to repeat it a few times before they get that message. But let's make it a conversation. They need the sleep. They need it for their body to rest. They need it for their brain to grow. So this article says they need like 9 to 10 hours of sleep at night. But the problem we have is you have gone to bed, they are not in bed. What are they doing? They are on their phone. So at a stage, families need to make a decision together to say, okay, I know it's Friday night, but latest 10 p.m. or latest whatever time, put your phone here where everybody will see it, have a place for them to drop it, then go and sleep. And if you can't sleep, then maybe read a book until you can sleep, just so you get your brain to rest from that screen time. So the 7th point says the teenager's brain is resilient, meaning it can fight back. Okay, it can fight back, it can get over. So that's why, unfortunately, for those that go into addiction, of addiction of any kind, if they speak out earlier, then it's easier for them to fight that and overcome it. But when they don't, unfortunately, the teenager's brain gets used to certain things really quick and becomes a habit, and then it becomes difficult to let go or to deal with. So that's just some theory about the teenager's brain and what's going on in their mind. I put this here. I copied it from an article and I forgot to reference them. So anyway, this breaks it down into ages. And for this early adolescence, that's the preteen age, I will actually add age 9 and 10 in here. Because what we're beginning to see is that they're getting through puberty a little bit early. So it's not unusual for an 8-year-old or 9-year-old girl to start having those unexplainable tummy aches, which shows you that their body is getting ready for their monthly period. It's not unusual at this, age 10, 11 for some boys to start, their voice is not deep yet, but you can see some changes going on in there. And even pubic hair sometimes shows up there. So I would add that age in here too. Some of the things that they struggle with is their sense of identity, because all of a sudden they are not a child anymore. All of a sudden they are not an adult. They are in between. And as parents, we start expecting more from them. So then they start, kind of kicking back. They can still return to some of their childish behavior every now and then, but they will definitely push their limits and rules. They will definitely ask you why. In fact, a 2-year-old will already ask you why. So at this stage, they ask you more because they want to know, why do I need to do that? And when they do that, because their prefrontal cortex, is not developed well yet, they ask it in a rude manner. So they don't think of the fact that I'm trying to get something for myself here. Let me ask nicely. So then the rude behavior comes in, and combating it as a parent with another rude response just makes matters worse. And we'll get to what we need to do as parents later. So the children are getting between age 15 and 18. Some of them will drift into poor self-concept. They will desire more independence. They will prefer to be with their friends than with their parents. But if while they are still in this age, and the age below this, which I look at between age 6 to about 9, if we do our job very well, of being a visible, present, and involved parent, putting judgment aside, giving them the opportunity to talk, letting them know that their value, their words make sense, or their opinion makes sense. Then by the time we're getting into this 11, 12, 13, 14, it makes the job easier actually. You'll be able to build on the relationship that you've already established at this stage when they start getting rude. And sometimes as parents, if a child is rude and says something rude to you, the first response that will come for us will determine how that child will react next. So if they were rude and be like, oh, here's what you asked for, but next time I would appreciate you asked nicely, like that was really rude the way you said it. So you still gave them what they're asking for, and you still gave them a lecture, but the lecture was a nice lecture. So when we do that, because if you look at adult relationship, if someone is yelling at you and saying bad stuff or whatever, and you responding with that, you will not get anywhere. But if they do all of that and you just stand there like, I'm not sure why you think I deserve to be talked to like that. Here is what you asked for, but you don't need to yell to get it. In most cases, except if that person has a mental problem, in most cases, they will calm down and even apologize for that behavior. So sometimes we need to practice that, reverse psychology kind of behavior on our children. So now we'll move to the top of the ladder, which is age 19, and now you're talking about late adolescence. So by this stage, they've started learning self-regulation, emotional stability, ability to compromise, concern for others, delayed gratification, because we've helped them gradually at this blue and purple stage to figure those things out. So those things are very, very important. I should say here that I will not be sharing my PowerPoint. So if there's any page that you would like to have, please take a screenshot of it right away. Please do so right away. And I can go back to it later. So this is where your parent workbook now comes in. So if you did not print it out, it's on the screen. And I would just like us to use the chat box at this stage. And I see there's a message there that I already. Oh, thank you, man. God bless you. Thank you, Pastor Olu. Thanks for being here. So the first page, I just put some of the questions here. So the first one is, what is your parenting style? And I hope you've taken time to look at it. At the last page of the workbook, I put down some descriptions in there. And these are things that would help us. This is a self-evaluation to ask yourself, okay, what kind of parent am I really? How do I parent my children? Describe your personality in a brief sentence and then decide what is your parenting style. So I would share, and if anybody would like to put anything in the chat box, that would be lovely. When I moved, so I will start with this. When I moved to Canada in 2004, I remember a family came to visit, and they had an older child. Well, it was a toddler and the baby in the car seat, and I have my baby too. So when they came, the older child just went to the baby, grabbed her hand, and did something really rough. You know how toddlers, when they have a younger sibling, sometimes are still jealous, attention seeking, and all that. And I immediately grabbed his hand and smacked him like, why would you do that to your sister? So describing myself, personality as a parent, way back then, it was like my hands were so quick. So coming to Canada, it's like, and they said you can't spank children. There has to be another way around this. And as my children started to grow older, I realized I was not a patient person. So I'm describing my parenting personality and my parenting style. So I fell most in the authoritarian, like, it has to be done this way. You do it this way. It's either my way or the highway. There was no explanation. Don't ask me why. It was strange to us then, like, why should my child ask me why? Come on, sit down there. I told you to sit down, you got up. So that was me, authoritarian. So I'm telling you then, way back then, that was where I was. But along the line, if you've been on my website, you will see my story as to how I started, researching into parenting and doing more. And for me, it was because my 3 kids then were age 8, 6, and 2. I hope I got that right. Or was it 10, 8, and 2? Something like that. And then the way they were treating the 2-year-old, my baby, right? I was like, you guys are too mean to her. Why did you spank her? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? And all of a sudden I realized, okay. the way to parent their little sister is what they saw me do to them. And that's when I started looking into all of this, like I can do better than the current situation. So I'm going to look at this person. You said African mom personality. Yes, yes, yes. African mom personality. So sometimes we see that personality and we think it's right and we continue in it until, see, it is not someone else that can tell you if that personality is wrong. The person that can tell you is when you watch your children's reaction and relationship with you. Then it helps you to know, oh, is my parenting style actually working? Is your parenting style working? If you're always shouting your children down, then they will stop talking to you. Then when they're struggling in school, you will not know that they're struggling. When something is going on in their life that they need the input of a parent on, then they will not come to you. Then you just hear from your friend outside that, oh, your child came and said did this, and you'll be shocked because you had no idea. So sometimes that might be the wake-up call for us to evaluate what parenting style we're actually doing in our home and if it is working. So I'll run through it. Authoritarian, it is my way because I said so, you cannot change it. Authoritative parents, they have rules, but with those rules there are consequences. So it's like, okay, I asked you to do this, if it's not done, okay, then you lose this for this, and they follow through with that decision. So if they've said, because of something you did not do right, which we've talked about, you agreed to do, the consequence is no TV for you for 1 week. And they will make sure that they either take the remote away or leave the remote there and tell you, you know better than to touch it. So you yourself, as the child themselves, would even be the one that will say, oh, I know I did not do what I agreed to do, and I know this is my punishment, and I will serve my punishment. So that's the authoritative one. Then there's the permissive one. They're lenient, and it's like, okay, well, it's okay. I know I said you won't have it, but it's okay. Go and take it. You know, they're very permissive. They back out of the punishment or discipline they've promised to do. Then there's the uninvolved parent, which I pray none of us will ever have to be that, because sometimes that can be due to sickness, that some parents can't really do anything. So thank you, Pastor. Thank you, Mrs. Adebola Olabodi. Yeah, God is helping me. Yes, God is helping every one of us. And that's why, we're here. We know we need to do some things better or keep doing some things more. And it only takes the grace of God to get there. So why did you adopt the style? Now, I've told you why I got into authoritative, because I realized, what I'm doing, I'm seeing them do it to the youngest one, and it didn't sit right with me. So I had to change to being an authoritative parent. And that's actually the best style of parenting. Authoritative includes positive discipline. So it doesn't mean you won't discipline them for doing wrong, but it's a positive discipline in that you talk about it. It's not that kind of discipline that some of our parents did, that it's like, get out of my sight and I don't want to see you, and you'll be scared to even walk around their room for 2 days. The authoritative one is they've disciplined you. They will come back later to talk to you. And I know my grandma was in that category, because she will spank you for stuff you've done wrong and all that. Then she will call you into her room and say, I don't like spanking you, but you did not do what I asked you to do. Then she will give you your oriki, and then she will make something nice for you to eat after you've cried very well, So think back to your childhood and select the answer that best fits your experience with your parents. So some of us, we have things to say about our parents, but the sincere truth is majority of them did the best they could do with the resources they had, okay? And God is helping us to retrain ourselves in the places where they did not train us well. So was the experience great for you? Or maybe you just don't even like thinking about it. Maybe it was that bad. So now let's pretend that, pretend to be your child, and think about your relationship with your children currently, your preteens, your teenagers, and even the younger one, or maybe the adult one. And ask yourself, if I were in my child's shoe and I'm asked this question, what would I say the kind of relationship I have with my parents right now is? Will your child say, I love my parents, the relationship is great? Or will they be like, it's good enough, it's okay, or I can't wait to leave home? So I put that there because we need to put all of these things in mind. God wants us to train these children so that when they're old, they will not depart from the way of righteousness. But we need to do daily, monthly, weekly, yearly evaluation to make sure that we are on track So if your answer to putting yourself in your child's shoe ends up being, I can't wait to leave home, then that tells you something. You need to do better. You need to do better. There's nothing wrong if they leave home at 18, 19, 20, when they get a job and stuff like that, on good terms. Not because somebody needs to mute themselves, please. Please mute yourself. Thank you. Okay, so we need to keep that in mind. So that's why I said this workbook is for you. It's for today and it's for every day. Look through it every now and then and ask yourself that question. What did your parent do well that you wish to repeat with your children? One thing, looking at my dad, one thing I realized my dad started doing later, and that's the issue with us as parents also. I look at my dad when we were younger, he was really not involved. The only time you will hear dad's voice is when you have really misbehaved. Like every other thing, you really wouldn't be involved. But gradually, as we're all like getting to the end of high school, going into college, dad would, the first time he would call you and say, oh, so what are you doing in school? What are you learning? Oh, let me see. Oh, I remember Maslow's law, hierarchy of need. Oh, yeah. Oh, this one and that one. And we're all like, oh, okay. So this man can talk. And I remember when I moved here 2004 too, whenever we call our parents in Nigeria, that this conversation was, oh, hello, how are you? How are the children? The Lord is with you. God bless you. And conversation has ended. I'll give the phone to your mom. Conversation had ended. But gradually along the line, daddy started talking more on the phone. That even right now, sometimes when I call my parents, dad talks more and we have a conversation. So that's to show us that whatever we are doing, we can do better on it. So what are the things I would like to repeat from what my parents do is to keep my relationship line open with my children, because I can see my dad doing that. The next one that my parents did a lot of, especially my dad, is praying for us individually. So let's look back. What are the things they did well that we can repeat? And what are the things they did not do well that you want to let go? One of it that I've definitely let go before I started having children is when your parents are angry and then they call you by certain names that are, oh, you this lazy person or this, all those words. We have to let it go because it doesn't do well for our children's self-esteem. So the last question on this page is, what is your child's learning style? How does your child learn? And the reason I put it in there, I'll move to the next page. The reason I put it in there is, if you have a child that prefers to see things, but every time you're giving them instructions, let them write it down. So a child that is visual, if you're sending them on grocery shopping, okay, if a grocery shopping for that child, they need to write down the grocery list. You don't call them and say, go to Walmart and buy this. They will likely forget before they get there. So instead of getting angry that you've forgotten, know your child's learning style and help them. Say, grab a piece of paper, write these things down and go do it. Some, they are auditory learning. So those are the ones that they will have books on Kindle, audio books and stuff like that. They like to listen. They don't need notes. And those are the children at school that teacher might say they are always playing. But when they do exam, they will pass. Because even though they're playing, they can still hear what the teacher is doing. I have one like that. There's the kinesthetic one. Those ones are always all over the place. They can't sit still. They are always pacing. But while they're pacing, they might be memorizing things. They like hands-on activities. And that all helps us as parents when our preteens and teenagers start thinking of what they want to be in the future, which is one other place that we struggle as parents. So for this page now, what are your child's expectation of you? Okay, so we talked about their brain function, how they're growing and stuff like that. But your children have expectations of you too. We are not the only one that have expectation of them. There are things they want us to do also, and we have to be aware of it for us to have this relationship in a positive way with them. The first one, they want to know if they are seen. They want to know if they are worthy, and they want to know if they matter to you. So am I seen? Some of us grew up in a background back then where children were not seen and they were not heard. But we cannot do that now. So am I seen? Do my parents really see that I'm struggling? When I walk through the door with my backpack and quiet, did my parents notice that? Do they notice that I might not have the words to describe what I'm feeling, but they can feel that something's changed? They want to know if they are worthy, because this 21st generation right now, there's too many too much stuff out there that is telling people they are not worthy, even us adults. So we have to be there for our children to let them know they are worthy. Whether you got on the basketball team does not mean you are bad in sports. You didn't get this one doesn't mean you didn't, you are worthy. God created you in his image, and that makes you worthy to be alive. Do I matter to you? For us immigrant diaspora parents, sometimes, especially those of you that might be new, trying to settle down is a lot of work. And sometimes we get busy with trying to get a job, trying to put this together, put that together. We expect the children to just raise themselves and just understand that we're busy. But no, you still have to find time to talk to them, because guess what? If you went to work and you felt somebody was racist to you at work and somebody was whatever to you at work, have you sat down to ask your children, the preteens and the teenagers that just started school here, left their friends back at home, are now here trying to make new friends? Maybe nobody's talking to them. Maybe they're the only black kid in their class. They have all of those things too that they're dealing with. So in as much as you're trying to sort out your own life, or maybe you are even a full-time student as a parent, still make time for them, to hear them out, to know what they're going through, to know where they need help. Sometimes you won't have the solution for what they're going through, but you listening to them talk about it. Hold their hands if you believe in prayer and pray together. Checking on them constantly to say, oh, how is school going today? I hope you're doing good. Text them if they have phone. They want to know all these things. Okay, they might be struggling in a concrete way, but they will respond if we make sure to celebrate their small accomplishment of today. So instead of focusing on that room that is still not clean, how about you appreciate the fact that, simple thing, when they came in through the door, they put their shoe on the shoe rack and there were no shoes anywhere. This place is clean. Or maybe finally they cleaned their room. Oh, this place looks so clean today. Wow, well done. I'm sure it took you some time to do that. God bless you. Don't start, I hope it will be like this every time. If you've been struggling with that, learn to enjoy the moment of the room is clean for today. Don't go into the lecture of it took you 3 months to do it. Yeah, I know. Adults are focused on the future, and this is something that teenagers haven't figured out yet. And that's why sometimes you ask them, what would you like to study in college? And they will have to think about it. And then African parents will respond with, you are this year old already and you still don't know what you want to do in the future. No, say, oh, how can I help you? What have you looked up? Can we research stuff together? What are your interests? Guide them. Our role as parents is to guide them at this stage. When they were younger, our role was to make every decision for them. Like, sit down there, go there, don't wear this, wear that, eat your food, do this. But now they're gradually going. Remember, some 50, 100 years ago, at their age, they were married, they had children. But things have changed. Now they're still in our homes. So we are now guiding them towards being able to make those decisions by age 20, 21, 25. There should be decisions that they've made. They're only telling you, so I thought this and I think this is what I'll do. What do you think, mom? Or what do you think, dad? At that stage, they've made the decision because you've raised them well. They're only asking you to bounce it off you in case they missed anything. And if they come to you, in case there's anybody that has adult children, and if they come to you with their decision and all you're doing is pieces it apart and tell them, you do, they won't come back. Because remember, they're adults as of that stage. Train them in a way that daily they can make decisions. And then level by level, little by little, they're adding on to it. And if you have a firm foundation to make decisions with when they get older, the picture to the size talks about things teenagers love, even though they will not tell you. They still love to be hugged, but they will push you away. But then if you want to hug them, you too, don't do it in public. Let it be at home if you want to hug them for anything. They like small surprises. They like when everything is not so serious, like every conversation is a lecture. You want to tell them something and like, no. Sometimes, parents, let's learn to talk in a calm voice. Let's learn to bring conversations up in a relaxing manner. Everything does not have to be, like hammered down all the time. They like it when we don't freak out. African parents, let's stop freaking out. So they told you, oh, mom, remember my friend John? That we went to elementary school together and this and that. And the other day we were hanging out and I discovered he had started smoking. Typical African mother will start shouting, you must not be friends with him again. I hope you two have not started smoking. For your child to tell you that, calm down. and ask, how do you feel that your friend John is now smoking? What do you think? What have you tried to do to help him? Well, so what do you think about your relationship now? Do you think it's still safe for you to be hanging out with him? If he offers it to you, do you think you're strong enough to say no and to keep your no? So if you're talking in that mode, they will be receptive to what you have to say. But if your first response is, yay, oh, and you blow everything off like a volcano, then you don't know, maybe they only just started smoking. They've not even told you what he is smoking. So now you've just missed that opportunity to help your child to figure out that relationship. Okay, so I timed this one to be forewarned is to be forearmed. One of the things that also helped me with when my children were becoming teenagers is, at work, people will be like, oh, do you have children? Oh, yeah, what are their ages? Wait till they're teenagers. They're going to roll their eyes. They're going to slam the door. They would just, and I'm like, how did we get here that we stereotype them so badly that even sometimes they don't even think better of themselves as teenagers? They're like, yeah, I'm a teenager now, so I get to roll my eyes. I get to shout. I get to do this. No. Remember nature and nurture. We're nurturing them. If we nurture them right, they will go through those teenage years and there will be minimal door slamming, minimal eye rolling, minimal sighing and not listening to us. So the society has given us already like, oh, they will do that. So let's take that as, we've been forewarned, and not let's forearm ourselves on what we should do in that situation. And we should also not forget that they have a lot more vices to deal with than we did in our own time. In our own time, we didn't have technology. We didn't have all this early puberty. We didn't have most social media. We did not have all of those things to contend with. We did not even have sex education as part of the curriculum for school. So things have changed, and we now have to figure out ways to flow with the things that are changing and still make our relationship with our children worthwhile. Early puberty without corresponding brain maturity is another thing that we seem to forget about, because they grow so big. I mean, there's a family, we're very close, and every time I look at their first daughter, I'm like, if she's standing beside me and we're standing and somebody's looking at us from the back, I will be the one they will say is the teenager, and they will think she's my mother. And that's how big she is. I mean, healthy big, not like obesity or anything. They're developing, and then we look at that body structure and we expect more from them that the brain maturity has not matched up with. So the early puberty now tells us that we have to have that, puberty talk with them earlier. By age, I normally recommend by age 6, start talking more. By age 8, start showing them the real stuff. Irrespective. So now, the other thing is now know what the curriculum is in your location. So if by grade 4, they started showing them all the real body parts and using the real names, that means before that grade 4, by grade 3, you need to start doing it little by little. So by the time they're doing it at school, ask their teacher for the curriculum, match it up at home, talk about it. It is body parts. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Use the right words: penis, vagina, breast. Nobody should touch this, nobody should touch that. Equip them so that whatever they're getting in school, what you have equipped them from home about will help them. Body shaming, which I think for us within the African culture, sometimes we do it unconsciously. Look at you. Look at you. You're looking so big. Look at your bum bum. Or your voice is so deep. Oh, this and that. And we say it in certain ways to children. And this is where knowing our children comes in also. A child that is very self-conscious, saying things like that to them, especially in front of other family members, is not going to help them. Maybe they are already feeling awkward that, why am I the tallest girl in my class? Why am I the tallest? Why am I the only boy with the deeper voice in my class? All my friends, none of them have deeper voice yet. Maybe they're beginning to even start to grow maybe facial hair, as the dad or the mom helped them know how to shave it. So let them know these are natural processes that the body goes through, so they can own it well and not feel awkward about it. So social shaming is something we need to really, really, really work on. The other one is social skills, how to say hello to people, how to greet people. Don't be shy. If you don't want to talk, that's okay if you're an extrovert, but at least look people in the eye, shake eye, and say hello. Then you can walk away and go find something to do. So on our own, as we begin to see that puberty for our preteens, get into the business, talk with them. Go shopping with the girls when they need their sports bra. Let them know it's normal. Show them that you wear it too. That is, let your boy know when they get to the stage where they're having that natural emission, or even if that morning penile erection. Let them know it's normal. Talk to them before it even starts, so that they don't freak out when it starts. So let the line of communication be open, respect their space. So once they start getting into that time, learn to knock on the door. It's not that you're taking permission, it's just courtesy. Knock on the door, say, I'm coming in, open the door and go in. If the door is locked, oh, why is your door locked? Do you prefer to be locking your door now? Okay, well, because we all live together here, it's good to know what's going on behind each person's door. At this stage, I don't want you locking your door. Maybe when you're at this age, it might be okay to lock the door. So have it as a conversation, not as a fight. Remember, the world we're living in right now, the agenda of the devil is to steal, kill, and destroy. And families and children is one of the things it's targeting. So we have to work extra hard to maintain that line of communication, that friendship with our children, so that, they don't kick us out the door. Which is the last line that I say, do not let them shut the door on you. Pick your battles wisely. Online safety and discipline through role modeling. We have to role model it. You're on your phone all the time. Well, parents, are you on your phone all the time? You've watched TV all day long. Parents, are you watching TV all day long? I know sometimes we give the excuse of, well, I've gone to work. I need to relax. I want to catch up. No, they too want to relax. They too want to catch up. So let's balance it up, so that if we're telling them, when somebody posts something, even if you see something, say, see the nasty thing this person said to this person's post. I'm kind of really happy that they didn't respond, because sometimes it's better not to respond when people are being nasty than you making the matter get worse. So little by little, you bring them into the adult world, what the expectations are by what you are doing as a parent. Our children will not go into any of this in Jesus' name, but we have to know that some of them, the friends they have or their colleagues at school, are already into these things. Drugs, alcohol, sexual activities, pornography, skipping school, because sometimes when you go to the malls during the day, sometimes you find school children in the mall and you're wondering, is there no school today? What are they doing here? So talk to your children about it, that it sounds like fun. Let them know, yeah, it sounds like fun when people do it, but it's not worth it, because at the end of the day, it's going to lead to this, lead to that. So face your school right now and leave all of those things, because they're not good for you. And remember when I was talking about addiction, how the teenager's brain is very, very malleable, it's plasticity and all that. If they get into things like this at that young age, the addiction is kind of more stronger. So it's better they stay off it than fall into it and be finding the way out. And also, let's teach them life skills, safety skills, social skills. I was saying to my daughter the other day, where I work, I leave my water bottle on my table. But when I get back to work the next day, I always rinse it out and put new water into it. And she's like, why? I said, well, because at the back of my head, I still remember the fact that you don't leave your drink where you don't know who can open it and put something inside it. And that's the same thing we need to teach our teenagers now, especially those that are already going to their friend's house to hang out, or there's a birthday party that they go to somewhere. People spike drinks. So let them know, if you have a drink with you in public and you're going to leave your table, you're better off take it with you, or finish it before you leave, or when you come back, don't drink it if you don't trust the environment. Going to the mall with their friends, it's something that they need for them for their own social interaction. I remember the first time our older girls asked if they could go to the mall. My first question is, to do what? Just walking around aimlessly, you're not buying anything. But they just wanted to hang out with their friends. So we had to go into the lecture of be safe while you're in the mall. If somebody in your group is getting into trouble, everyone else walk away. Be sure nobody is shoplifting in the group of friends that you're going out with, because you don't want to get into that trouble. And if anything is happening that you're not sure of, call me right away. So that's another way we teach them social safety. So also back to our nature versus nurture philosophy, is that for us as parents, what we're doing, I mentioned it, our children are watching us, and what we do, how we fulfill our responsibilities to them, to our spouses, even on our job, it will have a lasting impact on the child. So that's where the nurture comes in. So if things are not right nature-wise, the nurture can come in and help to make that a balanced situation. So I've said that, be aware that their physical maturity is faster than their mental one. And I put it here, it's a prayer point. When we read the Bible and it says Jesus grew in wisdom and stature, so that's a prayer point, that as our children are growing in stature, they will also grow in wisdom. Parents are the first and best teachers. So this one, I'll talk a little bit about this one. Let's learn to share our life experiences with them without making it a weapon that will destroy their self-esteem. So, when I was your age, we used to walk 10 miles to the river to fetch water. Look at you here wasting water. Well, that was our time. Make those things to be stories that you can tell them. In the Bible, it talks about it in Deuteronomy 11:6, I could be wrong, about teach these things to your children while you're walking down the road, while you're eating, while you're whatever. Those are all relaxed environments that you talk about it. Oh, I remember when I was in high school. If your assignment is later, your teacher will spank you very well before they even collect it from you. Wow. So they give you guys chances to submit it 2 days later. Okay, it is well. You guys are enjoying, but maybe next time try and hand yours in on time. So that helps you to develop skills of being timely with whatever you are doing. The issue about being intentional about our marital life, it goes beyond our children just having phobia for marriage. Right now, the LGBTQ plus, it's a longer term now, their agenda is to make it normal for same-sex marriage, for being involved with both, with saying I'm not even sure if I'm human, two-spirit and stuff like that. So we have to be very, very careful. Whether you're a Muslim on this line or a Christian, I believe our Bible and the Quran also supports the fact that same-sex marriage is not right before God. So let's not push our children into a situation where they're like, oh, men are always like this, so I'm not marrying a man. Women are always like this, so I'm not marrying a woman. God forbid that any of our children will show interest in stuff like that in Jesus' name. So case study here. So this is where I want us to talk, and you can put your response in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself to say it if you're in a quiet place. I see I have a... So while we're thinking about the question, So the case study number 1, a parent walks in to find their child watching or practicing pornography. What should be the first line of action? What should you do? So somebody comes to you and says they found their child watching pornography or practicing pornography. What would you advise them to do?
No phone beating.
I trust you. I don't know who spoke, but that's it. Yeah. African Mama. Thank you. Anyone else? What would you do? Or what would you tell this parents to do?
I have to ask some questions, just to, I will not, say it as if I'm surprised. I'll say, really, is this what you've been watching now? So what led to this? When did this start? We should just throw some questions out of curiosity, and we should be relaxed and be calm, and don't pick it up with them as if it's something that has not been done before. But the way we approach it matters a lot.
Thank you.
And it will even determine how open the person will be to us. So we should ask questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to read the responses in the chat. Don't act first. Pastor Lu said that. Thank you. Miss Kenisha, or I think that's a female name, it says, when our children come across these things, which they eventually will do, she's talking about something I'd said before, that our son always talks to those friends who are drinking and smoking and encourages them to live that unhealthy lifestyle. So, okay, so only one person put an answer here. So thank you. The first person that responded, that's the response that we were raised to give when we see something that is shocking. But remember, now we are on an intentional journey to make sure we do better. Okay? So the first thing is shock. And yeah, the last person just put it here, I will be shocked. So what I've discovered with these children is if you mask your feelings too much, then you've taken a little bit away from the correction that you need to do. Show that you are shocked. But the way you show it is what matters. So the shock can be to stand there with your mouth open or sit on the floor. And I've actually done one before in our first child when she did something that I was shocked. She said something and I was really shocked. So I looked at her, I sat down and I started crying. And the same person that was doing, I can do it, I have it all together, all of a sudden she too started crying. So we both first cried. So when we now finished crying, I now said what I needed to say. So sometimes it's good for us to show the shock. Show the shock. Maybe even walk away for a while and say, I don't know what to do right now. I just walk away. You see that they will sit down there waiting for you. They will quickly stop what they were doing that was wrong. But know your child, okay? Know your child. So show your shock and don't act in a harsh way first. Ask questions, like the last person said. Ask question. I'm surprised you're doing this. Please help me understand. How did this become something that you're involved in? We know pornography is bad. Let's not start from it is bad. Start from how and why. Remember how they asked us why. So this is a time to ask them why. Why would you be doing something like this? What do you think you're gaining from it? Help me understand why you think this is right. And remember how I said their brain, the plasticity, they can still learn things and they can unlearn things fast because they are still at that age. So this is your opportunity to now sit with them, guide them, find resources together, pray about it together, help, destroy whatever it is, let them destroy it themselves. If it's a book or whatever, the website, clear it off their phone or their laptop or whatever. Go through the process together. Daily check-in. So how are you doing today? Did you have any struggles? Did you feel the need to go and watch this thing again? So what did you do that helped you when you had that feeling? Okay, I read this article and they said, so you're going to have to go through that journey together with them. You have to go through that journey together with them. Yeah. So thank you, Pastor Godwin. You express your shock. You take away the gadgets. Take it away temporarily, if not completely. Do both parents communication with the child. So that's a very good last point he added in there. Get both parents involved. But I mean, if it's a son and it's a dad, and if the son says don't tell mom yet, that's fine. You can tell the son, I won't tell mom yet, to the full gravity of what's going on, but because I pray with mom, I will let mom know that you're struggling with something, an addiction, and that we need to pray for you more. And then I'll give you 2 or 3 days to think about it, and you go talk to mom and tell mom by yourself. And I can come with you when you go talk to mom. So what you've done in that situation is you've made it their decision to tell the other parent, but you've guided them to let them know you will keep their secret for 2 days because your other parent needs to know. Because if I'm not at home, then she will be the one praying with you or doing whatever system you've put in place to help them through that decision. Thank you so much for all the responses. So the next one. So I'm assuming most of us are Christians, or if there are Muslims on there. Did someone say something, please? Okay, so next question. Sorry, I'll bring it back. No, I think I went. Okay, so your child refuses to follow you to your place of worship, so to church. And their reasoning is, it's your religion. I don't believe in it anymore, so I'm not going. What would you do? What would you do?
Good evening.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I love the point of that because I'm very passionate, and sometimes as a mother, you sit there waiting for that moment to come to see if this changes whatever you're interested. I love the idea of when you started this session, you explained the meaning of nature and nurture, and those two are the key points. And from when they were in your womb, you have to think about how will I make this child by nature to become this child. When this child comes in the world, how will I nurture this child? What are these points? Are these things that I need to nurture my child? Because that nurture is a very important point that will last a lifetime in this child, no matter what is it. My parents always say, whatever you taught or whatever of this child you learn, this child, a child is what they learn until they turn. They will never forget whatever you have learned. Nurture them to do. If you do it in the positive way, they will continue in that positive way. And I have seen a lot of that example. If it's negative, sometimes it's very hard to turn them around. Sometimes when they're nurtured in a negative way, it's really a challenge. But let us stay on the positive side of it. If we nurture that child in the way from nature, right, from the womb, from as young as they are, and you nurture them in a way that, listen, your religion is this, what is expected. You model the role of what is expected, right? And I'm so happy that you asked the question, because as I put myself in that example, the way how my parents taught us and nurtured us to love God, I don't see anything or anyone that could change me otherwise, because of the way they nurtured you from down there, from as young as you can remember. And I always hold on to that. And I make it a priority that when I start having children, that is the way I will instill in my children. And most of you on this platform, I know my son is 19. And each time this young man gets up, he knows that he gets up and gets ready for church. I don't have to say, Junior, can you go to church today? And I thank God for that.
Praise God.
Sometimes he's not at church because he's studying now and he does his little job on weekends. But the moment he's not going to church, he's not going to work on the weekend, he ensures that he gets up and comes to church.
That's good.
And that is something I am very proud of, because so many children that even though you have taught them or nurtured them, that look, go to church, you have to be pushing them, right? And I started to say, if I didn't start from a young age and start him at a young age to say how important it is and who are we serving, and to show him that the examples of the person you're serving and look what he has done for you. And they will come now to understand that, yes, this is a true and living person that I must also serve, because I see what he's done for my mother. And I go back to what I myself as a little girl saw what God has done for my mother. And I really wanted to do also. Right? What? That is pathetic.
Praise God. Praise God. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Someone needs to mute themselves. Thank you so much, Kenisha, for sharing that. Thank you so much. And that's what we're beginning to see now, that, when the Bible says so that they will not depart from it when they're old, is that unfortunately, sometimes you will see some that parents did the best they could, and now the child wants to depart. And this is my advice to parents when it comes to that. So it's a two-way thing. Maybe the foundation wasn't done right. If it wasn't done right, then go back to it. If it was done right and they're claiming they want to leave, that's because they personally haven't formed a relationship with Jesus. So have a sit down with them and ask them, why do you feel this way? So on this Sunday morning that the child is doing this, there should not be a fight. There should not be a yelling competition. It should be, okay, thanks for telling me that, but we're running late. Can we please go today? And when we get back from church, we'll have a conversation about why you believe you don't believe in that anymore. Yes, it's my religion, and I was hoping it is yours. Because it's a relationship with Jesus. But now that I'm hearing it, thank you for telling me. Let's go so we're not late. When we get back, we'll have a conversation. And when you have that conversation, listen to what they're struggling with. Why do they believe what they believe in? Maybe someone else is teaching them something else outside. Then you get to know about it. Maybe they're struggling. Maybe they've prayed. Maybe they've read the Bible. Maybe they've tried everything and they still just don't understand it. Or maybe somebody told them that if you're not speaking in tongues, then you're not a Christian. And they've prayed to God to help them to speak in tongues forever and ever. And they still don't have the baptism of the Holy Spirit. And they're thinking, well, maybe this is not for me. So the purpose of these two questions is to let us know that whatever problem or situations we face in parenting, having an open mind, sit down, safe place conversation with our children goes a long way in finding solution to what we're looking for. So I'm going to move on really quickly here because I'm looking at the time of the people that are not in. So I'm going to play this video for us. Most of us would have seen it already.
Become a doctor.
Whatever you wanted me to do.
Yes, but what if it was your decision?
A lawyer.
Why?
Because that's what you said your second choice was.
Forget about what I want.
I don't know how to do that.
If you could be anything, what would you be?
Anything.
Yes.
Well, I guess, hypothetically, I would move to New York and see if I can get into a dance program. Hypothetically.
A dance program.
NYU has a choreography degree that only takes 3 years.
So when people ask me, what does Dele do? I'm supposed to say he's in New York learning to gyrate.
I've reconsidered. I would be a lawyer.
This is why I decide for you. You are too wishy-washy.
Okay, so when I saw that
What would you
video,
do?
I couldn't resist showing it here because some of us might have gone through that growing up, that parents kept making decisions for us because they felt we were wishy-washy. And I realized as parents, it's a slippery slope for us when they start getting into their teenage years for us to realize that at a stage in life, they need to start making decisions. But they won't learn how to make big decisions like that if we don't let them start practicing from a younger age. So all of us here today, we're here for preteens and teenagers. So there are certain things the preteens should have learned how to do when it comes to decision making already. If they haven't, then we need to start like on the double right now to make sure they do it. There will still be another screen later that will show us recommended things that they're supposed to do. But I'm bringing part of the workbook up here again. You know, your child's learning style. We've done that. I will skip the Canadian culture part and I will say, so let's go to is your child planning to move out of home when they're 18? So if you have a child that is like 17, 18 already, did that conversation ever come up? Or maybe their friends moved out of home. Have you considered that? And do you know what you would do if your child comes to you at 18 to say, legally I'm an adult, maybe they have a job, they have their own money, or they're going to college here in your city and they want to live on their own. And it's not like college is like 1 hour drive away or 2 hours drive away. It's like for me in Saskatoon right now, it's a 15 minutes bus ride. You know, what would you do when that time comes? My answer to that is have a conversation. Why do you want to move from home? What is the main problem? Is the house too noisy? And this is why we shouldn't always jump to conclusions when they say certain things. Is the house too noisy that you can't study here? That might be the reason. Or youth people are too overbearing, helicopter parenting, I need my freedom. Then you can now ask, what kind of freedom are you talking about? Let's talk about it. But if at the end of the day they want to move out at the age of 18 and you have no choice but to let them go, the question will now be, have you equipped them enough to be able to live on their own? The next question says, where do you see your child by age 18? So for those that are preteens right now, look at your child. How are they going, the trajectory they're following, how they're making decisions, how they're doing things. If nothing changes, would you be comfortable with the way they're going till they get to 18? If you don't feel comfortable with it, what can you start doing now to make those changes for them? And now back to the video we watched. What does your child want to study when they finish high school? Is it the same thing as what you think they should study or what you want them to study? So I'll share my experience with that. I have lots of friends that out of high school, the parents insisted this is what you must study. And majority of them, after they finished studying it, had to go back to school to study something else. They were all lucky, if I'll use that word, that they left Nigeria. So it was easy for them wherever else they went to change completely. There's this popular social media person that when he finished studying law, he took the certificate to his parents and said, here, there you go. I have obeyed you. I have studied the law you insisted I must study. Now I want to live my life. No knowledge is lost, but if they had let those children do what they really were called to do, they would have saved that 4 years of even the parents' money or spending money on something the child is just going to give you to hang on the wall. What's the benefit of that? So those are some of the things we need to start thinking about as parents of preteens and teenagers. Are we really studying our children enough to know what might be their interest when it comes to going to college? When Bible says train them in the way they should go, it didn't say train them in the way you want them to go. So when we insist you must study medicine, you must study engineering, then you are training them in the way you want them to go. Now, if they have all the skills and everything for it and all that, yes, you can suggest it. Suggest it. Oh, you're so good with numbers. I think you should be an accountant. Oh, you're so good at caring with people. Oh, maybe nursing or being a doctor will be your best. Suggest it. But if they're struggling with science, biology and physics, and they're doing better in other classes, forcing them to go do medicine, it's not going to work. You can already see the struggle here. And that's where I'll bring this in. We have to be in touch with our children's teachers. So if a child is struggling with one particular class, go to that teacher and ask questions. Is everybody in the class struggling with this class? Oh, no, it's just your child. Okay, what do you think the problem is? Well, this, and this. Okay, I've talked with my child. This is what they think they want to study. Do they really need physics for what they want to study? Oh, no, they don't need physics at all. They do not need it. Oh, let them drop the class. They don't need it. This child, the way they're going, they're probably going to do accounting. And the child has already told you. So why are you forcing them? And because African parents were like, once you start something, you must finish it. We don't leave things halfway done. So if you signed up for that physics, you must finish that class. But it's going to affect their GP at the end of the day. So let them drop the physics. They've already told you it's going to be accounting, or it's going to be whatever this course is. Some might even want to go into social work. And I'll put this in for us Africans, minority people. There are so many services that we don't have access to because we really don't understand. So stuff like social work, we need to let our children diversify. So if all the Nigerian children, everybody wants them to study medicine and accounting and law, what about all the other professions that we need as we're growing as a community? So if we have more children, even in policing, where the city rules council, where the city rules are being made, so that they can be a voice for our community to say, oh, in this community, this is what happens. Let's look at it and be inclusive when we make these decisions. But if we are all putting all our children in the same thing, then we'll be missing out on all those other stuff that can give us a holistic, good life where we live. I'm not going to belabor that too much. I know when it comes to profession for our children, and we have to be sincere that we are actually pushing them to do certain things because of status. So people can call me mommy of a doctor. So people can say, she has 4 children. They are all engineers. Do your children really want to be engineers? It is well. I move to this next one that says, be like Jesus. As you're teaching your children, just think of Jesus. There are times that the disciples will mess up, and you'll be like, oh, you little faith, why did you not do this? Okay, this is how you should do it. There was a time they couldn't cast out demons in a child. They said, oh, things like this must be done with prayers and with fasting. Let's learn to be graceful when we correct and redirect our children. Let's do it with grace. Let's do it with empathy. Let's do it with love. In my local dialect, they will say, if somebody says they have a headache, cutting the head off is not the solution to the headache. Let's let go of all those hammer down behavior and really sit down and have conversations. Because you know what? Once they turn 18, the report card of everything you've done to them since they were age 1, you will get it. Because when they become an adult and they walk away and they don't want to come back home, they don't answer your phone call, they don't call you, that's your report card. That whatever communication you thought you had with them, it's not a positive one. And now that they are adult, they have a decision to make if they want to subject themselves to such conversations again. So they might not pick your call. And that's very painful, I can imagine. Be visibly involved. I've said that. Let their teachers know you. Show up, reply email, ask questions. If they're recommending something, make that adjustment for your child. Hypocrisy is a no-no. The little ones below the age 7, 8, they're watching us. They might make what we're doing and laugh about it. But this group, they're looking at what you're doing, what they see that you're doing as a hypocrisy. To them, it's not a laughing matter anymore. To them, it's okay, this is not matching up. Is my parent bipolar? Especially for us Christians. In church, you are like this. And then at home, you are total opposite. And that might even affect if they follow in the line of Christianity. So we have to be very, very careful. Guide your children to be self-sufficient and independent of you. So there's another question on the thing that says, if you have to travel, will you be comfortable to leave your children home alone? Have you trained them that well that they can be safe at home? Have you trained them that well that they can go grocery shopping and find everything they need? Do they know to go ask the staff at the store to say, I can't find this item. Can you show me where to find it? Are they safe enough to know that if they are home alone, something is beeping, what should they do first? If there's fire, what should they do? And there are courses for that. In Saskatchewan, a child can stay at home by themselves around the age of 10, 12, if they are matured. But they definitely recommend that your child should do the home safe course or the babysitting course or anything like that to equip them for being home alone. So let's guide our children to be self-sufficient and independent of us. We have to start releasing the apron strings. So our youngest is 9. She's turning 10 in March. And I've told her, no, we've actually done it once. We drove to Dollarama. We needed to buy 2 items and I gave her the cash. And I parked outside and I told her, go inside. We've gone to Dollarama a million times. Go find the 2 things you need to buy. Go to the till, give them the money and they'll give you the change. She was super proud of herself. Sometimes you're even there at the store and they want to pay. Give them the card, let them learn how to tap it or stuff like that. That is how you teach them independence. You're grocery shopping. I know some of us were grocery shopping. The shopping cart is heavy, so we tell them to push it. And we are doing all the picking. No, you push the grocery cart. Let them have the list. Let them compare the price of the tomatoes and decide which one we're buying. And let them just show you, I decided we should buy this one. Is that the right decision? And then if it is not, you can correct them right and there and say, no, let's do the other one. So instead of them pushing it, doing the hard work, no, you push the cart. Let them pick the items out. That's how they will learn. This one, I put it here. And if you're raising teenagers or preteens and you're on social media, those are some of the pages I follow. I says the next time your son or daughter is deep in the throes of homework or studying, try to bring them their favorite snack. Don't say a word, just drop it and leave. Because often it's little things like that that we do to our teens and preteens, versus the things that we say that hold the power to connect us in ways we can never imagine. When they are under pressure already, don't add to the pressure. If they love hot chocolates, make them hot chocolates. If they're angry already and they're slamming the door and they're not talking to anybody, or they're already claiming you love their younger siblings more than them, you are making them to be the housemaid doing all the chores for everybody, give them one day off one day and say, you know what, today's your day off. Everyone else in the kitchen, we're doing everything. Food is ready, come and eat. If they are doing homework, send somebody to take the food to them. Don't put any expectation on them for that day. There's a page that I put there for firstborn children. They are not the small mommy. They are not the small daddy. Agreed, because they are the first, they have to mature faster. They have to be responsible for the younger ones, but learn to give them breaks. One thing I do with our oldest is randomly I would just say, if I have a day off and she has a day off, we're going out for breakfast, and we just go out, we order A&W or wherever, we sit there, we order whatever each person wants, we eat, we talk, we joke around. I don't do any lecturing. It's just mommy and you bonding time. Let's not belabor them that sometimes we now spoil the younger ones. We make the older one do all the things. And when we get back home and things are not done, let's leave the topic of, you are not responsible. You are more responsible than that. I left you and your younger siblings at home. See how everything is a mess. No, call the younger ones too and be like, I left all of you at home. Why did you not do what you're supposed to do? Must your sister or must your brother tell you to do it before you do it? Let them also know that, yes, big brother, big sister is mommy or daddy right now, that the parents are out. But you can't, just be doing whatever you like, because when we come back, it will now be the big person that will face and say, why didn't you tell them to? So let's learn to balance it. Let them enjoy their childhood too, okay? They didn't send you to go and have younger siblings after them. So I think I've talked about this already in my conversation somehow. The one I'll pick out here is the entitlement syndrome and the shifting line between right and wrong. So let's be in touch with our children to know, okay, this is right, this is wrong, this is white, this is black. Especially as Christians, people of faith, right? The world is making it this way, but we should still stand on the path of the right. And even if nobody agrees with you, be comfortable to be the only one that is standing on the path of right. On the long run, it will pay off. In the immediate, it might feel weird. People might not talk to you, but stay on the path of the right. The 3 people that sent questions to me, I'm hoping that I've incorporated what you sent to me into everything that I've said tonight. But if you still want to ask anything about it, you can put it in the chat box. Entitlement syndrome, it is not something one person can change, but we can teach our children to know how to handle it. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs at the base said, what we need as human beings, shelter, food, and all that. And as it goes up, it lines up some other things. Self-esteem, knowing that you belonging, friendship, and stuff like that. So we need to know that our children right now are at the stage where in our own generation, not every parent was able to have a house where each person has their own room. So right now, people have their own rooms and we're begging them to clean it. That's part of the entitlement syndrome. It's my room. And sometimes when they say it to me, I say, it's your room, inside my room, under my roof that I'm paying mortgage. Okay, clap for yourself. It's really your room. So sometimes we have to return their nasty statement with a sense of humor. Like, oh, it's your room. Wow, you brought it from heaven. You're paying for that room. Do you know how much rent I will charge you for that room? And just turn it somehow that way. Because the generation they are born into, that is what is happening. Whatever they want, at the clip of the phone, it's available. The other day I was saying, skip the dishes is everywhere. It's like we've all gotten lazy. Nobody even wants to drive out to go pick up pizza because we've been made comfortable. So it's affecting us too as adults. We feel everything is there. Sometimes it affects our prayer life. All the things we used to pray about, we're like, when we wake up in the morning, there's light, there's water, and somehow we also have become entitled. We just need to help our children to know that even though it's there, you should still be grateful for it. I drove our daughter somewhere the other day, a very busy day, tired. And when we left the place, we couldn't find what we went for. And on the drive home, I said, I don't understand. It's not that you saying thank you will take the tiredness away from me, but at least you should appreciate the fact that I took time out of my busy schedule to drive you to this place. Oh, she's sorry. Thank you. Let's teach them all of those moral values that we learned growing up. Okay, so this is just a funny thing about teenagers. They're just like toddlers. Sometimes, because toddlers, their brain is starting to grow. They're seeing things, but they don't have the words to say it. They don't have the words to tell us they're not tired, they don't want to sleep. They don't have the words to tell us they're hungry, so they might cry and make noise. And when you look at teenagers, sometimes it's like a glorified version of toddlers, because then they want to sleep, they throw tantrums. They think they are invincible. They think just like a toddler telling you, I'm hiding, and you can see where they are hiding. Teenagers sometimes will go do stupid, dumb things because they think they will get away with it, So it's the hormones in them that's doing all of that stuff to them. So let's learn to meet them with a little bit of humor sometimes when they do stuff that we are not really happy about. I will get to the chat after I read this one. So this I put in here because we are teaching them. Remember, we've gotten to the stage where we're guiding them. When I was in nursing school, we had a class where we had to teach. It was a class about teaching. And what I decided to do was to show them how to put a baby on my back and use the wrapper to strap it, the way we do in Africa. And everybody was impressed. I got a good grade on that activity. But one thing that my teacher said to me that day, I still remember, she said, oh, it would have been nice if you told us how long the wrapper was and how wide the wrapper should be for it to be enough to wrap the baby. But me, as an African person that's used to wrapping babies behind my back, the wrapper can be even small sometimes, and I know how to still make it work. It can be super big, and I know how to make it work. So I didn't even think I needed to include that information. And that to us as parents is sometimes we give directives and instructions to our children, and we miss out the important points in there. So the example I put here, which is what I got, oh, you started your period now. I feel sorry for you. You better not follow boys, because if you bring any pregnancy into this house, and to the boys too, okay, your voice is deep now. You too, you okay? You're a boy. You better don't get a girl pregnant, or I will disown you. Now, how is this information complete? How is this information complete? And I just use this funny one. There are so many other things that we say to our children sometimes, and we miss out the important information. Let's take the example of clean your room. Oh, what if visitors come and they come to your room and see? Most visitors won't go to their room. So what is the important message in cleaning your room? It is your space. You are responsible for it. As you're growing older, there will be more responsibilities that you have to take up. The least responsibility you have right now is at least learn how to clean your space, so that when you get older and there's more responsibility for you to do, whether in college, that you're living with other people and they expect the sink to be clean, it will not be a headache for you to do. It would have become a habit. When you get older later and you have an office to run, you will not have to, be looking for documents, and your secretary will say they can't find it because they are not an organized person. It will help you in life to know that when you put things in the right place, you will find it when you need it, because that time might be a very delicate time that you need to find that thing right away. So those are the informations that sometimes we miss out, but we're so stuck on, it is my house, that room must be clean. So God will help us. God will help us. Teach and learn. Teach and learn. As parents, we don't always only teach, we also ask. So what happened and how I reacted, what do you feel about it? So what happened the other day, and I said this to your younger sibling, what do you think I could have done differently? So talk and let them give you feedback. And this one I brought out from, as a younger girl, I saw my aunties and my mom inclusive go through their husband teaching them how to drive, and it was always everybody fought. I remember my uncle and his wife, and finally my auntie was like, I'm not doing it again. She had to go find a mechanic to teach her how to drive. So as young at that age, I decided when I'm old enough to learn how to drive, I'm not going to let my husband teach me, because I've seen all the drama that I've seen with the women in my life. So now fast track to now. Two girls, when they had to do their drivers, and we had to do the practice with them and all that. The first one, we went out and trust Nigerian mother mouth. That turning was too sharp. You should have done it. Finally, she said, Mom, I'm sorry, but your talking is not helping me. It's actually distracting me. Chai, thank God I don't do Nigerian mother reactions anymore. You can imagine way back what I would have said back to her. But when she said that statement, I just shut my lips like this, and I sat there just watching what she was doing. And when we finished everything and she now packed, she now asked, so what did I do well and what do I need to correct? You can imagine, she was just, I think it was around 16 that they do it at high school. So sometimes that's what we need to do as parents. You teach and you learn. You teach and you learn. Let your child be able to tell you oh, how you asked me to do that thing, I actually think there's a better way to do it. Can I try my own way first? And say, oh, that's okay. So you've been giving them opportunity gradually for you to even know to trust them when they come to you for something. So what type of teacher are you? Are you patient? Are you so strict? You're a no-nonsense person? Are you too soft, or you overlook faults easily? Which goes back to the parenting style that we talked about at the beginning. And this also, I will put it in there, goes to how we teach them about the scripture. So when children ask questions from the Bible and you don't have answers, yes, they have the right to ask for questions because they're trying to develop their relationship with God. If you don't know the answer, tell them we will find someone to answer that question. Bring them to church for Bible study and ask. If you know the answer, give it. If your answer does not satisfy them, ask them why. Let it be a teaching and learning experience. Our job is to nurture them. Our job, they will grow, but we have to nurture them. And nurturing involves, you water them, you feed them, protect them from the sun, advocate for them, that protecting them from the sun. And the question that was on the page about how if an adult is body shaming a teenager, and that's where advocating and protecting our children come under nurturing them. So if you have family members that whenever they come around, all they have to say about your children are things that when they leave, your child is crying. If you can talk to that adult, pull them aside one day and say, you know what, Auntie, my children love you, but I just don't love how every time you come here, you say something that is making them cry. The worst they will say to you is your children are too soft. You should toughen them up. And you should tell them, okay, while I'm toughening them up, can you please stop saying things like that to them? And if they don't change, it is your house. You have a right to refuse them visit if you can. So hopefully they are not an in-law that you can't refuse visitation to. So I'm going to look quickly before I do this last one at the questions in there. Okay, sometimes our responses give our children advice of what to do wrongly. So we have to be very, very smart with our responses. How can you keep a child that does not like to make friends or keep relationships? We are all different. Some children are introverts, some are extroverts. Some don't like social connections. So just make sure the reason they are trying not to make friendship is because they're judgmental or they think nobody is good enough or whatever like that. If they're an introvert and they just don't like to make friends, if they have one, leave them. They don't need 10 friends. If they don't have any, you fill in that space for them for now and be praying about it and let them know, would you like to have friends? How about we pray about it? That God will give you the right friends. Because God forbid you push them, and they now have a friend and that friend now hurts their feelings, then they're back to square one and might not even try at all. Okay. I would want to know why, then I want to convince my child. Okay, so that's responses to what has been said. Okay, so I think I've talked about whatever was on the chat that we need to hear. If there's anything else, you can let me know. So this page here says, I don't care if they roll their eyes, sigh heavily, tell you you're weird, still say it anyway. Have those tough conversations with your teens often. Sex, birth control, consent, drugs, alcohol, all of it. Talk about it. Talk about it. If you're not sure where to start, find books online that does justice to that. Buy it, read it together. Don't let them be finding out those information from the internet or from their friends, because the information they might be getting from there might not be the right one. And I put it on that no taboo topic. So talk about everything. Talk about everything. So in this one, I would like to point out the body odor issue. And I put 2 products here that are very good, tested and tried. And if you have, your teenager or your preteen is going through puberty and they start all the sweating everywhere and they come back and they are in sport and immediately they walk through the door, you can smell them from a mile away. And remember, their prefrontal cortex is still developing. Sometimes they don't relate the I am smelly to I need to shower. So sometimes you still have to tell them to go shower, or to tell them not to wear that same shirt they wore yesterday that they sweat in yesterday today. So these two items works very well. The pink one is a scrub. You can find both items actually at Walmart or Shoppers Drug Mart. So what the scrub does is, the scrub is mostly for the armpits, but you can use it for the whole body. It opens up the pores in your skin, because sometimes the spores might be blocked and then you're keeping your sweat inside, and that is even worse. It's better when it comes out and you clean it off than when your sweat stays inside. And they need to drink more water too, especially if they're in sports. They need to drink more water so that their body is able to sweat out all of those stuff. So the scrub is for the armpit. They scrub very well. They can use it for the whole body. Now, for kids that might be dealing with body odor already, you're better off with the spray, because what the spray does is it locks. So it does both. There's the antiperspirant and there's the deodorant, depending on what your preference is. I personally really don't like the antiperspirant because it stops you from sweating. I prefer it to sweat, and then as you sweat, you have a product on that will kind of like how Febreze will make a room smell better if there's odor in there. So then the deodorant does that. And the hygiene bag for school, which I told myself I was going to have ready and I forgot. For those that have not started their period already, that is something very important that you need to have for them. And I forgot to get it together, so I'm just going to, I think I've given the two that I had over the last event that I did. I've given them out. So as they're getting to puberty, they should have like those pencil cases, the ones with the zippers, and some of the things you can put in. There's the small roll-on deodorant. They can have a facial tissue. For the girls, for the smaller bodied girls that are starting their period, they have the teenagers pad that's a little more narrow than the adult one. You can have it in their bag. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that video that I did way back then about the hygiene bag for school. Even mints for fresh breath can be inside that bag. The small package of wipes can be inside that bag. So if they're in sport, after sport, if they can't shower, they can use the wipe to wipe their armpit. If they carry their spray antiperspirant along, they can quickly spray that on there, and that will be a quick fix before they can go home and have a shower. Hygiene is very, 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 very important. So we're gradually getting to the end of it. And here, I will just let you answer these questions in your mind. We've talked about it. The one I will talk about right is, how often is your child involved in household decisions, especially for the older teenagers? By now, they should be part of the decision. Decision about maybe you're changing house, you're going to look at a new house, take them along. They're going to live in there. Let them also see the neighborhood. Let them see how the rooms are set up. You want to go on vacation, let them make decisions about that. I know they are not the one paying the bill, yes, but let them be part of that decision, because remember, you're raising them to be adults that can make decisions. So let them practice. Random things, maybe even family movie night. We're going to the movies. Which one should we watch? What day should we go? Should we buy popcorn when we get there? How much money do we need to spend on this? They're going shopping. This is how much you have. How many clothes should you be buying? Do you really need this item? Let them make the decision. Sometimes they will make the wrong decision, and then they realize, oh, I've run out of money. I shouldn't have bought that thing. And sometimes they will take it back to return it. Let them make those decisions. They need it to grow into adulthood. So this is the chores chart that I was talking about. For age 7 to 10, these are the things they're supposed to have learned how to do. I will not read through it, so please take a screenshot of it if you would like to have it. And I'll probably do a follow-up email after this program that I'll put some of the links to these things in there. So if you look at age 16 to 18, I like it says help with family budgets, handle their own bank account, plan holiday decoration and events. So these are things that they need to have learned. These other, simpler ones. Buying groceries, preparing family meals, helping parents' business. So if you run a business, let them come help. Pay them minimum wage or something. Let them know what it feels like to work for money. Because when you keep giving them allowances, they will spend it anyhow because they haven't worked for it. So let them learn how to work for the money they earn. When it comes to friendship and dating, in the culture that we live in, sometimes children start dating as young as age 13. You have to set your own rule in your house and let your children know. This is the age that I think it's appropriate to start dating. I would prefer you have and maintain friendships first. Get to know people first. If they say they are interested in you, that's fine. But don't go into dating yet. Get to know who they are, their value system, what they are not saying, and stuff like that. How do they react in the group conversation? Are they rude to the food server at Tim Hortons? All of those little things. Keep it as friendship for now. For us, our rule is at least almost, by halfway through university, yes, you can start taking it serious, but be friends with everybody so you get to know them. Keep all your friends as friends. Don't add romance into it yet. The brain is still developing as we started with, and by age, like I said, your frontal lobe is not fully developed until like 20. So that means if you're deciding someone you want to marry at age 12 or 15 or 18, by the time you now start having your right decision-making skills already functioning well, then you might look back and be like, oh, am I sure this is the person? But remember, way back, grandparents each time, they made that decision around that time. The environment supported it. Everybody got married at that time. Family values were different. So some of them actually stayed married forever. Also remember that when you have conversations about LGBTQ with your children and they come back with you you people are too judgmental, why do you hate people? Jesus says we should love people. We need to remember that some of them might have friends that are struggling with that. Some of them might know someone that's struggling with that. And this generation, their Generation Z, they function more on empathy, on loving, on inclusion, on being respectful to other people. I know we are the ones that sometimes they are not respectful to, but on the global level, they like to see that nobody is victimized. And that's why sometimes when stuff like injustice is going on, sometimes they show interest in that because they don't like it when they see stuff like that going on. So this one, I would like you to do it on your own. We're running out of time because of the people in the other time zone. But those are some of the things that our children are watching us do, and they see as hypocrisy when we don't do it well. Prayer is the key. Prayer is the master key, but there are so many other keys we must not neglect, and I've talked about that in the course of this presentation, so I'll skip over it. Cultural differences are things that we have no control over. We can accept the ones that fit into our moral system. We can let go of the ones that we don't think we need. Let's not be too rigid. You're in diaspora, maybe where you were from, swimming and stuff like that. You don't want your children involved in it. It's a life skill here. It's a safety skill. Please let them do it and be accepting of feedback, like I've said. And I've talked about firstborn. Let's make them feel loved. So the last thing that I'm going to ask us to do is an evaluation. You can do it later or you can do it now. You can write 2 things that you want to start doing based on what you've learned to this through this session, and you can write 2 things that you want to stop doing based on what you've learned in today's session, and be intentional about it. If it is one thing you want to start with, that's totally fine, but be intentional about it to make sure that you're working at it. My prayer when I was praying about this is that all the children represented in these families, that whatever needs to change, they will start seeing that changes from you. Whatever you need to start doing more, they will start seeing it from you. They'll start seeing that, oh, mommy has really changed, or daddy has really changed. And that will help them, especially the teenagers that are already talking back, giving you all the necessary drama, that they too will be able to say, if my parents can change doing this, I too should do better. So that's the end of the presentation, but I'm going to, for those that are not aware, I have 2 books in the market on Amazon, and you can also order both of them from my website, both PDF, Kindle, and paperback. And if you want to email me, do it through my email address on my website, info@olawumioyetuga.com. If you have my phone number, feel free to text me. I'm fine with that. On social media, I go by Parenting with CIMT. And I also have a WhatsApp page for parenting that I send messages to frequently also. So you can take a screenshot of this, but I'm actually going to drop all of this information in the chat. If you want to click on any link directly, then you will see that. Can I share the earliest slides? Is there a particular one that you're looking for? Is there a particular one